overlook them and say, well, cleaning is not, no. And you cannot run cleaning as a reactive only kind of approach where you respond to queries, you take care of escalations that come out of poor cleaning or accumulated cleaning done as a project. No, cleaning has to be done in such a way that there's a persistent, consistent value that cleaning brings, and that must be enjoyed by all users of the facilities that you manage. So we're going to be looking at, looking at what's important about getting engaged with your cleaners in such a way that they bring their hearts and their minds to the job. What's hindering them? Being able to find out the things that will unleash their potential as people who can help you deliver your facility mandates. We'll look at some cleaning strategies and cleaning methods. We'll talk about hygiene. This is one area of cleaning that has been highly undermined. People think that once the space looks clean, clear of debris, spick and span, then we've done the cleaning, right? So hygiene is also a function of cleaning. Sorry. The invisible part of the mess we're trying to take off with cleaning. The visible one is what we see as visible cleaning things to clean off. Okay, and so we'll talk about the hygiene. We'll talk about housekeeping, orderliness, preparing a space to make it functional and useful. And then we'll now look at 3 key areas of cleaning that has to do with services that surround the cleaning practice. Services like pest control or fumigations, services like waste management of waste, as well as health, safety, security, and environment. These are all tied to your cleaning operations. If you ask a typical cleaner in your facility today what work they do, they will say, I'm a cleaner. But that will mean that you have train them to only see their job in terms of what they do on a day-to-day basis, not necessarily the value they provide or the results of the organization to achieve. So if a cleaner understands that for a mall, his job is not just cleaning, but ensuring that the mall achieves its objectives, making sure the cleaners understand those objectives and how those objectives are translated into results by visitors to the mall, by shop owners, by the property owner, and so on and so forth, right? So you define what the cleaners do in terms of elevating them from beyond this mundane day-to-day with just cleaning to care and concern for the people and the assets that they are there to clean and take care of, right? And then starting with hearts and minds, we need to think about what motivates the people that we work with. Are they there just for the temporary, transition to a better thing to do? Do they like their job? Do you provide them the tools they need to do their job? If they like their job, are you able to amplify those areas of their job that they feel good about and be able to fix what they want to do better in the organization, right? So don't see cleaners as cleaners who are not human beings. They are human beings that needs to be guided, that needs to be pointed in the right direction, that needs to be heard, that needs to be given feedback of what they are doing, and then resolving all issues that they may be having. Let's look at cleaning basics. What constitutes a clean, as it were? I think the most obvious clean is that it is squeaky clean or very clean, where you have all forms of debris has been removed. So all forms of visible, what the naked eyes can see does no longer exist. What can be washed off, what can be scrubbed off, what can be brushed off, what can be cleaned or wiped off, no longer exists in the surface. Then we can say that surface is clean, but that's only one angle to clean, right? Clean in the sense of the visible debris, yes, that is 1/3. The next constitution of clean is a hygiene. This is where you promote or preserve health and sanitary conditions of your environment. And this takes a look at the bacteria or organisms that are invisible to the eyes, but that could be contaminations around your area. They could be bacteria, they could be chemical type contaminants, but they could be in the environment that is already clean. All right, so don't think a place is clean until you are sure that the bacterial loads or fungal loads or viral loads in that area is low as practically possible, or within the WHO limit of acceptable pathogens in a space, right? So that's the second function of cleaning. So don't just look at cleaning as, oh, well, the place looks good, all of us can see, the place is fine. No, that's not what cleaning is. Second level is even more important. Making sure that the real reason you are cleaning, which is the health and well-being of those who are using those spaces, is being achieved. Because if you're cleaning and people are falling sick because of pathogen attacks of bacteria and the rest, then your cleaning is really not achieving its effective goals or objective, right? Now, the third angle of cleaning in terms of what constitutes clean is odor control, all right? So odors and smells that are unpleasant or unsavory. Now, an odor or a smell that is unpleasant might become a subjective issue, because some people will tell you that the place smells funny. And by that, they mean they are smelling something like iru that people used to cook, for example. And that is a foul smelling substance that we enjoy as a delicacy. Now, that to some people's nostrils is now like a scent that they enjoy, right? But not everybody, even those who eat it, don't want to smell it in the environment. So odor control includes everything you can smell. And I need to spell this out. It could be from organic matter, fecal matter, toilets, urinary, and the rest. It could be from decay of building components, from moisture, from all kinds of rottenness. It could be from the things we put into the apartment or into the spaces that are beginning to emit, like raw carpets, like mattresses and sofas. They can begin to ooze out stuff. And then it could also be from the chemicals we use to work and that we store in spaces. In all of these instances, your space is not clean until it is odor-free. Now, many of us are used to pumping some scents in a space in a bid to mask out a smell. Now, that is not odor control. Odor control means cleaning out whatever is causing the smell, running the kind of maintenance activities that will prevent the smell from being emitted. Every time you smell something, something is being emitted, and that thing are particles of whatever is decaying or being emitted, right? It applies to chemicals, it applies to organic matter. Odor control means identifying, removing, cleaning out whatever that source of the smell is. Adding an aerosol perfume or air freshener to that smell does not remove it. It only adds an additional chemical into the space. So any nostril that's in that environment will still end up inhaling all of what was there, as well as inhaling what you have added now to try to fix the smell. So in essence, you are not solving any problem. You are only compounding the problem. Mind you, perfumes, aerosols, body sprays, air fresheners, whether in stick or spray format or any one, they are also emitting the chemicals that when we inhale them, especially in certain quantities and our exposure to them, we really cannot digest. We cannot digest or excrete them. So when you hear of cancers in our environment today, it may not all be, things that are far away from us. There are things that we are exposing ourselves, to by exposure to these chemicals. So in essence, think about cleaning with your eyes, what I can see. Think about cleaning with your health, pathogens that inflict the body through the blood, all the other organs, we used to take them in, and then think about what we can smell, the things that the nose can pick up and cause discomfort or even cause illness and death eventually, right? So we need to understand what the, so when you are writing SLAs or specifications for cleaning to your cleaning contractors, don't always focus on the squeaky clean, environmentally clean, clear for eyes to see that it's clean, right? You must also stress on these other things so that they understand exactly where you're coming from. Because even when you have a damp environment, it may not be a cleaning issue, but you see fungi grow on damp environments. It becomes a cleaning issue. It becomes something that needs to be cleaned off on a regular basis. So even if there's a maintenance issue with moisture ingress or moisture absorption by that wall or surface, then there's also a cleaning issue to make sure that that fungi is washed off. Take the example of your green algae in your interlocking tiles or inside your gutters, and you think it's okay for those greenish stuff to be there because that area is moist and it should always be there. No, it's your job to ensure that you pressure wash them off to make them something that does not become a permanent feature in your facility. So it's important that we think about cleaning in these three respects. So cleaning and hygiene, when you talk about these three right now, if you were to rank them according to which one is more important, then I can tell you for free that the hygiene is most important because that is directly tied to the health of people. But again, the hygiene is made worse by the dirty environment from not being squeaky clean, right? And then again, every time you have a dirty environment and things begin to grow in that environment, then you have odors to deal with. So in essence, they are all tied together and we must focus on all three as what constitutes clean. So when we're specifying work for cleaners and contractors, when we're trying to make any prescription for cleaning, let's think in terms of these three areas. Clean as in visually clean, clean as in, you know, to the nostril, nothing to smell, whether good or bad or ugly, and then tested in our blood, we don't have contaminants we have accumulated in our systems because of cleaning issues or because of chemicals or organic materials in the spaces that we manage. So by definition, the removal of unwanted materials in any form from a surface such as soil, debris, that all surfaces are clear of all gases, liquids, and solids that are not needed for the area. So these are the three things we just talked about, you know, the objectives of cleaning, the purpose of cleaning, why we clean, you know, just keep focusing on those three areas. Take off dirt, sanitize surface, and ensure that places are organized and without smell. Now, the reason we do cleaning is to have a hygienic environment. We also do cleaning for aesthetically pleasing considerations. When you want the place to look clean and perceived as a high quality environment, you clean it to a very high grade, right? So these are things that we must learn as facility managers. But then once you understand that the most important reason you are doing cleaning is to make sure people are well, personal hygiene, individual hygiene, or hygiene of a population that uses your facility, then that will take you to a higher level of cleaning, specifying, and cleaning management. So you're no longer having that argument of it's clean, it's not clean, it's not so clean, it's a clean a bit. No. There will be standards for measuring how the activity is performed and how it affects these three areas so that we can do key performance indicators on measuring it. Hygiene, a set of practices performed for the preservation of health, conditions and practices that help to maintain health and prevent the spread of diseases. All right. Hygiene in the kitchen, bathroom, and toilets. There are surfaces in any of these three highly, how will I put it, contagious environments. Thinking about the kitchen, one small contamination going into the kitchen can become food poisoning for everybody, right? The bathroom is also produce some of the we release some of the waste from our body that we don't consider useful, and trying to mix that up with by any means to what we take in can become disastrous. Okay. So while we're talking about cleaning, we need to get it right the first time. We must promote quality service delivery and enhance efficient use of resources by doing things right the first time. We pay attention to details, we improve customer satisfaction, we save money, we save time, and we improve health and safety, and we improve the health and safety of those who use our facilities. What does it mean to say right? Okay, so we are trying to get it right. What does right mean? First definition is what the customer wants, what, how, when, and where. All right. So as facility managers, you don't just come about telling customers what is right for them. All building users should know what is right for them, and then you can create them into a survey that helps you to analyze the majority, the requirements from the majority. That becomes the requirement for everybody. Now there are standards and best practices that also define what is right. What are standards? Standards are minimum set of minimum requirements or conditions for executing different services, right? The lowest standard permissible by law is the one prescribed by law itself, called regulatory standard, or the building codes, as in many countries in the world have already adopted, right? So if you have customer defining standard and you have standards set by industry, by best practices, by organizations, by corporate organizations, by governments and the rest, which one would you place above the other? First, you have to consider the regulatory compliance. Because you cannot operate at a level lower than regulatory compliance, you now need to ensure that that is set at the minimum, right, that you can operate to. Then the customer now defines what, how, when, where, above that minimum standard. You don't make prescription, you only give options at this point, right? And then we talk about quality as something that we measure against other things of a similar kind. You cannot be talking about cleaning quality if you cannot measure it. There must be some kind of scale for measuring that service quality. And part of this we're talking about today, I think, covers that. All right, so it starts with you, the facility manager. It starts with your cleaners and your housekeepers and everybody. Everybody must have personal accountability, self-evaluation, and reality check, and a passionate desire to learn, improve, and continually increase in productivity. Okay. As facility managers, our focus is on the customer, and the whole thinking here is that of thinking of everything we do as a system. If a customer is satisfied, they will buy again or come again or bring more people to you, right? If they are not, they go away and they don't keep quiet, tell everybody else what you've done that's terrible, and you end up losing customers you never had in the course of your organization's existence because of what you have done in the past. Okay, so we'll talk about cleaning standardization as we go on. Customer service, if you're managing cleaning, you must always think about the customer. You can't be the one who goes to a customer to say, please allow me to do my job. You give me the space. You go away, let me do my job. You need to understand exactly what the customer is doing at that time, what they are trying to achieve, and how your job provides solutions or enables them to achieve it. After all, we are all strategic enablers. Our cleaners too ought to also be what? Strategic enablers of the success of our customers or building users. When you bring cleaners on board, I've seen situations where somebody comes in for an interview, does all the proof about their ability, convinces you that they're the best for the job. Do you just say, oh yes, you know what you're doing, therefore go in and start more? Part of standardization is creating a training plan, a program that helps you train people that you bring on board, right? And some of the things that if you're bringing cleaners in, they must be taught on the use of PPEs, they must be taught on how to sanitize their hands and wash regularly. how to maintain personal hygiene for themselves, how to ensure that they take lessons on proper cleaning techniques. For this one, you can actually handle by getting the team to cross-train. What somebody is good at, teaches the others on the toolbox meeting in the morning, and every day something happens. Within 3 months, they are all fully cross-trained, right? So usually don't expect that people who come in to take up jobs, they have answered you all so well in their interview, don't expect that they now know what they should be doing. You need to ensure that you provide some level of training. And if you've not provided level of training, any level of training at all, you've not called for, oh, please come and arrange a training for my team, or use on your own, created some kind of content that was able to teach your team how to do this, then of course you have not been, if you've not put that training as part of what you set up when people come on board, you cannot be successful as facility manager. You cannot expect miracles or magic to happen when the people that you set up on the job are not trained. Okay. Ensure that all cleaning personnel have a comprehensive understanding of the potential consequences of their behaviors. Tackle behaviors first. It is behaviors that are more dangerous when it comes to cleaning. Behaviors like overusing chemical, inhaling chemical unnecessarily, behaviors like not being respectful to customers or trying to clean around customers because it's your cleaning that supersedes the customer's comfort and well-being at that time. Then that becomes a problem that needs to be dealt with. Okay. Okay, what do we train our cleaners on? Aseptic techniques. This is about how to sterilize. So many methods for sterilizing surfaces. Some surfaces that are non-metallic can take diluted hypochlorite, for example. Some spaces will require hydrogen peroxide. Some spaces will require steam. Some surfaces will require steam work washing to ensure that the spaces are not only clean physically, but free of germs. And then gardening techniques, this has to do with how to put on your PPEs, how to prevent what you are trying to clean off that surface or that space from becoming what kills you eventually. And then you also need to teach your team when they come on board about environmental monitoring. People can come onto your team and for 3 months, you've not seen any bill for sewage evacuation, or you've not seen any bill for refuse evacuation, and you say, oh, that guy's a superstar. You need to know exactly where he's putting the trash that you're generating, because if you don't know, you'll still be liable if that trash ends up in the wrong hands, okay? And then train staff on basic microbiology to foster an awareness of how microorganisms function and risks involved. Because I mean, think about it. There are so many people that just, because they say I should wash my hand in the toilet, they just do that to the water and then shake it off and come out, right? They need to be taught the proper procedures for washing hands. As simple as that is, people need to be taught in the team, because that way we are protecting everybody from falling victim of one person's carelessness or recklessness. Now, personal hygiene is a very big problem for our cleaners. Some cleaners are so, I don't know what to use, but they are so unhygienic that you can't even stay around them. They walk past you and, oh man, what is that that just blew past me? Right, it's like a skunk. You feel that this person has not baited for a day or two, probably have baited and have not washed his uniform, and so on and so forth. You need to ensure that people not only get the resources, tools, uniforms that they need, but they are actually able to use them. Okay, actually able to use them. And so you train your cleaners on how to use the tools, PPE, and the rest you give. And then sampling of cleaning products. There will be all kinds of cleaning products in the market. If you ask 5 or 10 cleaners, you probably get a consensus from among 4 or 5, right? About 7 cleaning materials or chemicals at our best. The important thing for you as a facility manager is not really which chemical you are using. right? Just ensure that the chemical safety data sheet is being implemented, being followed, is being used adequately by the team you have on ground. Okay, so how do we start influencing people's hearts and minds, right? Trying to get them to do things that are right, okay? Because really, for things like energy efficiency and cleaning, you definitely need all building occupants to cooperate. You cannot keep up with everybody spilling coffee on the ground, 100 coffee spills a day, for example, with no apparent reason, you know, so ensure that, you know, people don't just see you as doing your job alone, but they see themselves as partners in progress. So that's why you communicate to them what you are there for, ask them what they will want, set up a program or plan that shows that they have contributed to what you're designing for them, and then take them on board in the decision-making process. That's how people will appreciate what you're facility manager. Now, managing that change, step beyond involving the users in the process so that they're not messing up the facility. You need to start with small improvements at a time, you know, until you get to that top. Target a small number of risk practices, whether among owners and occupiers or facility managers. Identify the motives for change behavior. Hygiene messages need to be positive. Identify appropriate channels of communication. Decide on a cost-effective mix of channels, and it needs to be carefully planned, executed, monitored, and evaluated. In essence, every of the things you need to do as improvements or changes to your cleaning, to your hygiene management in your site, you need to be deliberate in your okay, so when you take on a task, a cleaning task, I've seen too many instances where somebody is told, go and clean that room, and the person cleans and, oh, well, you've cleaned it very well, you've done very well, and then you leave the person to his fate, right? Or someone comes in and they say, go clean that room, and the person cleans it and comes back and say, oh, can you not see this? Can you not see that? Didn't you see this is not orderly, it's not well represented or well cleaned, and so on and so forth. What you need to do as facility managers is to create cleaning work method statements. Every site should have a cleaning work method statement for every space or every space or facility component type, including information like what is to be cleaned, the frequency of the cleaning and the hours, restrictions imposed by the specification, the equipment to be used, materials or chemicals to be applied, the method of cleaning, the expected time taken to clean, the quality outcomes expected from cleaning, who is responsible for monitoring the quality details of risks associated with performing the cleaning task, as well as safety precautions to be adopted, including the use of personal protective equipment and emergency procedures. So in essence, you use a small sheet of paper outlined, just answering these questions to come up with your cleaning work method. Because if you do have a cleaning work method, your cleaners are guided to produce the same output on an ongoing basis. Okay, this is something that's very important in facility management. Clean versus zone, individual versus zone cleaning. I'll explain what this means in a bit. I thought I had a slide here. Okay, this should be the slide. So, color coding means that you will designate certain aspects or areas of your facility as requiring certain depths of cleaning. These are areas that, because all areas of the facility will have different hygiene levels in terms of hygiene risk as well as hygiene requirements. For example, your kitchens will have a very high hygiene requirements and somewhat of medium hygiene risk because it's not low hygiene risk because of things that could start decaying in the kitchen, like, pieces of protein left unattended to. Now, whereas your toilets will have a very high hygiene risk, even though it has a low hygiene requirement compared to kitchen, because you don't put things from the toilet into your mouth, whereas you put things from the kitchen rather, into your mouth. So one is higher, which is the kitchen, in terms of hygiene requirement, but not so high in terms of hygiene risk. Whereas the toilet is not so high in hygiene requirement, but also on the contrary, very high in hygiene risk, because that's where a lot of bacteria are released from the human body to mix up with those that are already outside, right? So the way you run color coding and cleaning is for you code your spaces according to this 4 codes. The highest risk areas are colored red, to do that on your floor plan. The next level are the blue areas. These are the common casual areas where we operate and do all our activities. And the green area are the areas where things go into our mouths, where we drink water, where we eat food, where we have social gatherings, where we can have entertainment, can all be categorized as green. And then for specialty areas, we tag them as yellow. These are areas that are not red, not green, not blue. We don't live normally in yellow areas. They're probably laboratories, they're probably museums, they're probably areas where you can't do the common things that we do in blue, green, or red areas, right? So what do you do as a facility manager? You segregate all your equipment, tools, materials, and define work processes for each and every area of your facility. Just ensure that you have different work processes in place in each of these areas. So the red areas have a particular cleaning method that works there. The green area has a particular cleaning method that works there. The blue area, the yellow area all have different work methods. They also all have different equipment types. And even when they do have the same equipment types, you have to use a color coding system of your materials, so that a mop, a bucket, and a mop sponge that is used in the green area does not end up in the red area or vice versa. All right, so that's the whole idea. You are using this color coding not only to code your floor plan according to these hygiene requirements for your cleaning, you're also using it to code your equipment and your materials that you use for the cleaning, okay? So let's look at those 4 areas again. Red, most often used in high sanitary, high risk for the spread of infection, or in restroom cleaning, such as with toilets and urinals. The yellow areas are for sinks, counters, and washroom surfaces used for specialty cleaning, counters, mirrors, gym areas, and metal works. And then the blue areas in lower risk areas of a building, such as desktop, ledges, window cleaning, and high and low dusting. And then you have the green areas used in food processing and food preserving, as well as bar and eating and drinking areas. Okay, it helps you map out areas of concentration for cleaning staff, so that you know the areas that is the cleanest compared to the areas that is the least, the most contaminated. It's contamination level is basically what you want to contain with this. Now, we'll look at best practices for cleaning. Let's look at cleaning best practices now. I think the biggest challenge we have with our cleaning practice today is the use of chemicals. There have been all kinds of chemicals filling up the entire shelves in the markets and supermarkets where we buy cleaning stuff. And you need to actually investigate cleaning supplies for their toxicity. Your cleaners are always exposed to cleaning supplies. Your occupants are always exposed to cleaning supplies. And if any cleaning supply or chemical is carcinogenic, which means it can cause cancer, then we can be creating a lot of problem. Instead of solving problem or creating the, doing something good, we will be creating a problem. So let's look at the description, the contents, the chemicals, the state that they use. Google up some of those chemicals just out of random, pick 2 or 3 of your cleaning supplies, look at their key component chemicals and Google them up to see whether they are FDA of America, NAFDAC of Nigeria, or WHO globally accepted as chemicals that people can be exposed to. So many of the chemicals we see around us are not safe, okay? So that's the first. The second is, as a best practice, train your cleaners to clean with the least amount of chemicals. Every time I see a cleaning mop bucket thick and foamy to the top, I ask the cleaner one question. Are you going to clean that surface after you have dirtied it with this soap? Because you are basically going to paint this whole place with this thick, a solution you have, and you need to actually come back while it is still wet with clean water and mop it off. Because if you don't mop this soapy mess off, you are creating more dirt for your space. So you create more dirt, you waste the money that is used to buy those chemicals, you expose yourself, the cleaners, and the people around you to the fumes from these chemicals, especially detergents and soaps and bleaches, all right? And then you think you are doing well. For some areas, cleaners just use strong disinfectants for everything. They just keep either using a hypo or using some Izal related type of chemicals all over the space. And every time you smell anything, anytime you get any odor, any scent of anything, it is particles of what was in that container that was mixed in water that you are actually absorbing into your system. And no chemical is good for our internal systems. No chemical is good for absorption. They're all going to be dangerous because the body cannot process them. It's not meant to be inside the body. So the cleaners themselves who are doing the job needs to be trained to protect themselves and needs to be trained to also protect the people who are using the spaces, because every time we are exposed, we are creating risk for ourselves. And to think about it, disinfectants are the most difficult toxins to deal with. You're killing bacteria. Just we'll talk about pesticides for pest control, killing other mammals that are smaller than us in the environment. I would think it doesn't do anything negative to us. No, that's not correct. Every toxic chemical has an impact on us, and all disinfectants are toxic. All right, so use them only when they should be used. Use them after the surface has been cleaned, not as a replacement for cleaning. I've seen people go into a bathroom that is smelly and urine infested, and just go ahead and sprinkle, some hypo or some Parozone or Jik in the space. That's not cool at all. That's not cool at all. That's not acceptable. That space needs to be cleaned, thoroughly cleaned, and then another mixture, a solution that is mildly mixed of that disinfectant is used to clean a second time. So dilute properly and follow a manufacturer's instruction. Now, some manufacturers will have their instruction on the cartons or packets or the containers of the chemicals themselves. For others, you may not have it there. You may have to go online to Google up and download them, right? And ensure that your cleaners are trained. Every time you are changing chemical, you must train your cleaners again on how to use those chemicals. And then think about simpler chemicals like peroxide-based disinfectants if you have to disinfect areas. During the COVID, we had to put programs in place to disinfect door handles, toilet flushers, urinal flushers, anyway, put touch, tabletops and the rest. And you can't really use bleaches because bleaches can damage furniture and building materials. So peroxide solutions are available. Just research and find the common peroxide-based ones that you can use. More for cleaning best practices. Look at the kind of cleaning cloths that you work with. Microfibers have been known to help reduce the links on the surfaces. They help to reduce the effect of streaks. All those streaks or those patterns. When you finish cleaning in circular motion, you see when it dries up, you see it dry up into circular patterns or straight zigzag patterns. Those ones are prevented if you have microfiber. They're actually very soft and they hardly tread when you're using them for cleaning because they last longer. So they end up being cost effective. And then they use less chemical because they don't absorb your chemical into themselves. And then you have to wash that away. They tend to, when you put a chemical on the microfiber cloth and use it to wipe, it doesn't stay inside the microfiber cloth. It comes on the surface that you really want to use it to wipe, and the dirt is what the microfiber cloth picks up from that surface. It also helps to prevent injuries, chemical exposure, back strain, and accidents, and helps to reduce cross-contamination if, of course, you don't use it across locations. Don't go allowing your cleaners wash their hands, wash the napkin in a sink and say, oh, yes, we just rinsed it out and we can take it now from the toilet to the kitchen, okay? Yeah, the same thing applies to your floor sweepers and your mops that's used to mop the floor. Ensure that it is microfiber based. You can just ask the question when you are buying those materials. The ones that are microfiber based are often more expensive, but they are actually better in the long run because they last longer and they give you less cleaning hassle in the sense that you do your cleaning for faster period, thereby saving manpower time and saving costs in the process. Simplest way to keep a place reliably clean. You stick to a schedule. There's a time to go in. There's a pattern that you must follow. Identify the tasks that need to be done. Ensure that you take those tasks list by list. And that's why when we go into a space to go and clean, and cleaners go into the space and they don't just first look at the area to see what needs to be cleaned and note them down before they start work. They may either work with the wrong procedure, where you are either dusting on surfaces you have cleaned or raising dust on surfaces you have cleaned and vice versa, or you are missing out on some areas that needs your attention because you did not note what needs to be done in those areas. So use this as a guide to set up your cleaning work method. We talked about cleaning work method a while ago in this class. The next thing is your cleaning rules. This is basically what you train your cleaners on. They should understand that they should not waste too much time, make every move count. You don't keep scrubbing at the surface that nothing's coming out of, right? Don't use the wrong tools. I've seen somebody using a mop stick, mop head to clean a handrail on the stairwell, right? So that's wrong. There are tools for everything. Some people have actually used, some mop sticks or other tool for taking off cobwebs. And when you look at the work, you see the cobwebs smeared all over the test coat wall or some kind of smell on the ceiling, POP ceiling. Work from top to bottom is a very important rule. Train your cleaners to learn to start at the top as far as their hands can reach in every space that they get into. Clean everything all the way down so you end up at the bottom. So many people will ask me the question, if I do all that and I sweep at the bottom, dust will rise up again. I'm not talking about sweeping with your African traditional broom. That is not something you use for your internal spaces. In fact, it's not a best practice at all. You're supposed to use either a brush that allows you to stand to sweep, or a sweeper that is flat that holds onto the dirt as you whisk through the space. Those are best practices for the kind of floors that we commonly manage today. If it's not dirty, don't clean it. Don't rinse or wipe a surface before it's clean. Don't keep working after it's clean. If what you are doing is not working, then shift to a heavier duty cleaning tool or cleaner. Keep your tools in impeccable shape. This is also another problem we have. You give two cleaners a mop stick to work with, and in 3 days, one is already broken and not working, and the other one is still okay. The one that is still okay probably washed his mop heads out, dry them, and kept them away so they're not soaking on the wood, compared to the one who kept his own mop head right inside the bucket with water in it and left it overnight, right? So be careful how you monitor your cleaners. Many of them don't care about the job they are doing. They don't care about anything about what you are putting them through because you're not really connecting with them. And as such, they'll be very wasteful when it comes to using your materials. And if you're not careful, you seem to be inefficient as a manager because, of course, you're not paying attention to what's going on around you. Repetition makes for smoother moves. The more you practice, you now know this is the procedure you should follow. The more you practice, the better you become at that particular operational activity. Pay attention. Pay attention. So paying attention means being critical of your own work. If you have to do a peer-to-peer review where you clean this area, I clean this other area, I come and check your area, you come and check my area, that might be helpful to improve cleaning quality, okay? Keep track of your time. Don't get lost trying to take out one stain, keep track of your time. If you have to clean this space for 30 minutes, manage that time. 30 minutes and you still do a good job. Use both hands. You can't have, one hand fixed with all those fancy nails and then, tucked away while you're working with one hand. The second hand will either be supporting you when you go on all four, for example, and you're trying to scrub on the floor, or you are using it to steady the items you are trying to clean a table, for example. If you don't have the second hand to support it while cleaning it, the table might move, or you might be able to apply enough pressure to get the cleaning done, okay? If there are more than one of you, work as a team. What does team cleaning do? Team cleaning is a cleaning method where everybody go into a space and people take on different aspects of that space. You're cleaning the cobwebs, the cupboard broom. The next person is cleaning dust off furniture and fittings and doors and windows. And then the next person is on standby to do the sweeping. And the last person is on standby to do the mopping and wet cleaning, right? So you work as a team. On the other, on the flip side, you could also be working, doing zone cleaning, where you have each person having his own area and having all the tools he needs to do all the work in that area. Of course, keeping to the color coding approach. This might just be best for some sensitive facilities where you cannot move tools from one area to another because they have different color codes, okay? Best practice in chemical use. Don't use chemical if you haven't properly been trained. Always put food and packaging away before chemical usage. Every time you open a chemical and there is a loaf of bread, even if it's tied in a nylon bag, that bread receives some of that chemical. If your nose can receive some of that smell from that chemical in the air, then the bread will also receive some of that chemical through that osmotic membrane, which is the nylon. in which the bread is kept. So at the end of the day, you're not only inhaling the chemicals through your nose, you're also eating it in the food around the space. And that's why you find supermarkets and stores where they sell food and chemicals like detergent bags in the same room. They end up smelling like each other. So you buy a carton of biscuits and you be smelling detergents or soaps or bleaches from it because they've been kept in the same room. All those things are all, they call them effervescent materials. They're always emitting some of their particles into the air because they are concentrated and the environment is not that concentrated. The environment keeps diluting itself by taking some of their particles, and those things become absorbed into other materials around, and that's a dangerous situation for our exposure to chemicals. Usually approved chemicals for the task you're performing. So I hear all this talk of acid, go and get acid to do this and do that. You know, please just use only approved chemicals. And that's why I like buying standard products. I find it even difficult to engage with products produced on the roadside because I really don't have, I can't vouch for all the chemicals that they're putting in there. And if you ask for an SDS for some of those chemical products, they will not be able to produce it for you. They don't even know what the active ingredient is. And they'll give you some names, and you will not be able to get the full names or the chemical composition of all the other things they add to it. So be careful. Use only according to the manufacturer's labeling or instructions. Always make sure there is a proper label attached to the container. Even when you pour the chemical to another smaller container to share it for among the cleaners, make sure you have produced photocopies of the label of the original container, and you can stick it to the body of each of these ones before you can do that. And don't put the chemical inside a container that is also being used to store things that people eat or drink in that environment. It's very risky. An exposure could happen before you even say, oh, well, I finished drinking the fruit juice that came in this gallon, and I poured, yellow cleaning chemical into it, and somebody used to know that it's yellow fruit juice that used to be in that container, and then you have killed that person, right? Or created a huge emergency around because of your carelessness. Okay, make sure there's a label. Know where to locate the material safety data sheets. SDS is what we call it these days, the safety data sheets for all chemicals. Every chemical you use in your facility must have a safety data sheet. What does it contain? The key ingredients, what is used for, the poison classification, precautions for when it's exposed to to your nostrils, to your eyes, to your skin, how to take precautions, how it is stored to ensure that it doesn't cause contamination, how it is discarded to ensure that there's no environmental contamination from it, and so on. All of these instructions on how chemicals, what the chemical is made of and how it is made up of and how it is used is what we call the safety data sheet. The reason for that information is that is the main tool for training your cleaners and people that work with you on how to use that particular chemical. Okay, store chemicals away from food, keep chemicals safely secured at all times, so no careless can access it. Keep them in the original container, and if you're going to use another container to share, like I said before, get copies of the SDS, the name of the chemical boldly written in it, and then stock on all these other containers. Your cleaning equipment and products. There are manual equipment that we use to scrub, to wash, to mop, and so on and so forth. The range is endless. When using cleaning equipment, especially this manual equipment, be careful of bending strings, bending down to work. That's why our traditional broom for sweeping is banned from all cleaning operations, except you found a way to put an extender that helps you to stay straight while using that broom. And again, when you use that broom, be sure that it's not for internal spaces, it's only for external spaces. When you're sweeping through vegetation or sweeping through gardens and paved areas, then yes, that will be okay. But that if you wear your nose mask to ensure you don't inhale the dust that's rising from there, that particular tool does not have any space or any reason to be used inside our facilities for there's no justifiable reason for that. Okay, that's a bad practice of the past that should stop right now. And come to think of it, it's no longer cheaper, significantly than some of these other tools that we can use for this same job, like the brushes for stripping that has a long handle. Okay. For the mechanical equipment, there are quite a number of them. All of these equipment are things that we use for carpets, for tiles, for terrazzo, for buffing and shining, and so on and so forth. Consider energy use. Some of these equipment are very high energy guzzlers. And some of us are actually reckless when we use equipment. For example, those that uses batteries today are charged and overcharged and charged and overcharged, discharged without being put into productive use. If it's not being put into productive use, just hibernate it, disconnect the battery head so that they are not being run down and charged again unnecessarily. And then for those that when you want to buy an equipment and you're trying to compare, look at the ratings, the energy use ratings, so that you'll not go and put your money into an equipment that will become a drain on your energy consumption. And then also think about water use. Some equipment are old, you connect a hose from a tap into them, and they just keep running the water into the drain, especially for those you're into scrub outside spaces like the pressure washers. Look at the rate of flow to decide if this is a good product or not, because nowadays they use more of jet streams, sometimes of heated streams like steam, to do the washing, so you use less water in the process. Cleaning product dosing, some of these machines too require very heavy dosing of chemicals that can become a drain in the facility that you're managing. And then the noise that it generates, the noise that they emit can become a nuisance to your environment and become a noise pollution to your users, as well as the ergonomics. Ergonomics has to do with how you position yourself when using any of this equipment. If any equipment is too low or too without a handle for you to operate it safely while standing, and consider not going for such equipment. Okay. Okay, I believe the cleaning methods should be pretty straightforward for most of us to be able to read and understand. You take out the trash, pick out all the rubbish, make sure there are liners in your waste bin. And then when we say hide dust, we're actually talking about mopping, so wiping rather. So instead of dusting stuff all over the place, like it connotes, then use more of a wiping that helps to capture the dust and dirt and reduces the spread. Because you're basically cleaning one surface. If you're dusting it right and left like that, and it's picking up all of those dust, they settle in another surface that you've either cleaned before, or they settle back in surface where you're dusting up and down or left and right. So let's be careful to use more of what we call a duster. It's actually a napkin or cleaner for wiping. And then you have the dry mop is basically what we call the sweeper, and then you use the mops to wash. Mops are supposed to be wash, rinse, and absorb or dry your floor surfaces. And since most of us are using the tiles in our facilities these days, mops and dry mops are pretty much the tools that we should rely on. And then when wiping, damp wiping is very helpful, especially for dusty environments, so you don't even raise dust during the wiping, okay? Certain procedures should be developed for certain spaces in your facilities. For example, your bathroom, you should start with the supposedly cleanest area down to the worst hygiene required areas. For example, the door handle is often used, and people will touch the door handle even after washing their hands, right? So you clean that first when you're still fresh and clean before you start tampering or touching other areas in the toilet that you're cleaning. So in essence, you are cleaning from the cleanest to the worst, as it were, just to ensure that you don't cross-contaminate, you don't carry something from inside the toilet bowl into the door handle that people are going to hold on later. When you do cleaning, train your cleaners to understand their role as people that work with you to enable the success of the people that you have in the spaces. In essence, if your job is to ensure functionality of the built environment and the well-being of the occupants as well as the productivity of the organization, your cleaners should understand that as well and be able to interpret that as everything that is not right is my job around the space, not to go and clean around a broken, a door or floor and leave it broken. All right. I mentioned before about your mop buckets, not to have too much chemicals in them and not to end up painting your spaces, especially your floors, instead of cleaning it free from all dirt that's in those space, right? And then we'll talk about deep cleaning that happens maybe weekly, monthly, or at other frequencies we set up. One of the common deep cleaning that we should carry out is called stripping, where you actually use a machine and some cleaning chemicals to scrub off, remove all form of debris, including the old wax and whatever is on. It's been buried and into the floor surface for a long time. Okay. What qualifies people to work as cleaners in your organization? The first thing is their health status. They must be healthy because you're bringing them into a job that is supposed to guarantee health for others. Okay. They must be conscious and well trained to avoid illnesses and injuries, both for themselves and for their building users. They must have personal cleanliness and hygiene, not nails that are filled up long and filled up with dirt, not bodies that are not being washed regularly or hands are not being washed regularly, or body odors oozing in environments where they are supposed to be keeping a fresh air for people who are taking air, and then they become the pollutants. They must be taught, they must be incentivized to remain clean. And then the behavior of cleaners, the behavior is so important. You cannot train somebody and if the person does not learn what you are training him or her for, the person will not be able to implement what you are training. So when it comes to personal behavior, you need to be very mindful and watchful of attitudes to learning. For example, being teachable, attitude to teamwork. When people have to watch out for each other to get things done, what is the attitude of this client? So being teachable, being able to help to work in a team, and being able to accommodate additional tasks to support the operations are behaviors you need to look out for when selecting cleaners or when promoting them. Individuals going to work, for example, have to be clean, have to be healthy. You cannot go about picking up germs and spreading it in spaces that you are supposed to be cleaning. Okay. And there are a few specific examples of how you could apply some of these techniques in school environments. You could also apply them in a hospital environment. Just ensure that you are able to adapt what you are learning to the environments you are managing, okay? So let's look at some key principles for hygiene promotion. Target a small number of risk practices. People who, for example, have become accustomed to sneezing out with their mouth and faces wide out in the air. You could target that. You could target people who don't wash their hands, for example, or target certain smells. People don't even know the smell, you know, when they come to a space. Pick up one, find a way to walk around it, especially with the people involved, and you get very credible solutions, right? So why did we talk about color coding a moment ago? Is because we don't want cross-contamination. We don't want to be the ones carrying a disease or a pathogen from one part of our facility to another, thereby somebody who drops it here will not carry it from that space and put it in another space where someone else can pick it. Now, but that is one side to the, you know, pandemic. Cross-contamination, but the individuals themselves who will go to the toilet, go to the kitchen, go to the living room and the offices, for example, they may end up spreading it and someone else comes through and picks them all up. Interestingly, the risk of communicable disease, the biggest risk is the fact that some people will have it. It will not show in them. They are carriers of it. They're passing it on and nobody can suspect them. Nobody can know that this particular person has it or is having this disease or not, right? Well, that person is actually having it, the person is actually spreading it, and you know, there's no way to know, because that person does not even have any of the symptoms of that disease. You see why it's very risky and very dangerous. So as FMs, we provide controls just to ensure that we don't allow that to happen, because whoever is spreading it, we're just spreading it free of detection, because we don't have a means of knowing, because it's not showing and coming out with any of the symptoms. And this is very risky. That's why we do color coding. That's why we do prevention of cross-contamination. And that's how so many controls that have come into being because of Ebola, and then Lassa fever, and then COVID should not be dumped even when COVID is over. Because if you look at the statistics of illnesses and diseases in the world, you'll find out that during the COVID period, it was actually less for most of the other killers, because we're now implementing hygiene rules very, very strictly. Even when the government no longer requires that those hygiene rules be stringently followed, we need to, as a matter of saving our profession and helping organizations to keep excelling, keep some of these rules, if not all, in place to keep people together. One of the common rules that should be kept strictly observed is the hand washing rule. If every school will insist on not stopping this hand washing practice and make everybody wash their hands frequently throughout the day, if every office will keep their hand wash basins outside and put signs everywhere for people to go about washing their hands, will be fantastic to keep all the other diseases, not just the viral diseases that have plagued the world, away from us. Okay, so that will now become your higher standard compared to what the regulatory authorities are saying. They may say, oh, no longer face mask, oh, no longer hand wash, you can do whatever you like. That's the standard that it will be brought down to, but you must keep a standard that is higher than that if you want to maintain a level of hygiene for your facility that is, above average as well. So I've seen people go to the bathroom, they want to wash their hands, they just open the water into their hands and they just do that. And then they close the tap and then they leave. If you don't actually have soap, after wetting your hand, putting soap to rub it all around and washing it for 20 seconds, you have not washed your hands effectively. And if in a particular day, you wake up in the morning, 5 in the morning, and you come back to bed 10 in the night, and you've washed your hands less than 10 to 20 times, you have failed for that day because you are now a risk to other people that you encounter on a daily basis. So let that be like a rule of thumb. Have I washed my hands 10 times as a minimum today? Even if I didn't have any reason to eat with my hands, even if I didn't have any specific reason to wash my hands, can I remember often enough to go into a bathroom and wash my hands? Some people only wash their hands when they need to urinate or do number 2 in the toilets, right? Can you walk straight into the toilet just to wash your hands and come out? Would that, would that be helpful? And would that be helpful to the people that you work with and as part of the orientation that you provide for your building users as well? And then the fingernails can be a store of all kinds of dirt and debris. So be very careful. Keep fingernails short, keep them clean. I understand the value of having those long designer nails that are 2 inches. If they're not the type that you can take off so you can do the things you do, they have to be glued in, then you must find a tool for washing them that you put in your handbag so that the inside those spaces would never accumulate dirt, okay? The first time I taught people about baiting, it actually caused some giggles. So are adults going to be taught how to bait? Well, yes. One of the common challenges I see with baiting, especially those of us in Africa, is that we over-scrub, we over-sponge ourselves, and thereby exposing our skins to bacterial attacks, because the bacteria that are on the skin surfaces that should be protecting us are scrubbed off using harsh antiseptic soaps. So don't do this, okay? It's a problem, okay? It's a big problem. And then of course, washing the face, washing the body, all forms of washing, clothes and beddings. You know, we clean all your facility very well, and you still have beddings that are used for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks before they are washed. At that point, they on themselves started giving out some of those, smell and some of those debts that they have been built into them. And then many of us are good at cleaning our outer clothes, but our inner clothes are just they can't imagine what they look like. I was in an occasion once when the young man who is sagging his trousers down decided to do a show on the stage, and for some reason the trousers came down further, and the boxer he had on was not something you can even look at. It was terrible, right? These people work for us as cleaners, and they wear these boxers for a whole week, and don't take it out on the men alone. The ladies also do the same thing. They wear a bra for a whole month. These things accumulate all the sweat and turn into some terrible things around the environment. For cleaning, ensure that hairnets are worn by those who have treated hair, long hair, so that they don't have hair dropping all over the facility, especially those who have braids or weave-ons on, that these things can be dropping around. And then ensure that employees have the appropriate uniforms, right? It's best practice for employees to change into their work uniforms when they come to work, but that's not always practicable in every instance. Sometimes they have to dress up, from home with their uniforms. But then in that case, ensure that they have enough of those uniforms to go to wash every day and have a new, a uniform to wear, on a fresh uniform to wear on a daily basis. And ensure you have also have control on their footwears, make sure it's clean, and ensure that everywhere cleaners are working, they have a safe room, the boys' room, the girls' room, where they can change, where they can keep things, because of course that affects the quality of the work that they do. If you don't provide the means for them to shower and change in the spaces, then reduce the hours you give them to work. Okay. We talked about all of these hygiene areas. I want you to all, read them all up. I won't spend too much time on them. I want to go to the pest control areas. You can't succeed in cleaning and say you are doing a successful cleaning operation when pests are running up and down in your facility. In fact, the way pests take over your space is they first see things that they can eat all around your space, and then they start coming in. And from a lower pest like a cockroach, you start getting rats and certain other rodents, and then from those rats and rodents, you start getting reptiles and snakes. They grow in the food chain, and you are the one providing the first source of livelihood for them because of dirtiness. Okay, so that's the first level. Ensure that food crumbs, anything they can eat, is not left in the wrong place. If you want to feed the neighborhood rats, take the food out to the refuse containers outside if you really feel that's the job you should be doing. But leaving those food crumbs in your sink, leaving them under your cupboards for once in a week deep cleaning, for example, you're creating a nest for them to come and stay, right? And so even if you're trying to implement this second step of preventing them from entering your premises by screening and netting your spaces, you will now get a lot of them making the effort to break through those barriers because they are perceiving things around your space that they really want. All right. Whereas even if you did not have those screens or nets, and when they are passing by, there's nothing drawing their attention to your kitchen window or your house, they probably won't even enter, even if you leave it open, right? So what do? Prevent refuse, debris, dirt, things that they can come to eat from being on the floor. Don't even allow your waste bin to remain inside the house overnight. Make sure every day's cleaning takes out all refuse to the waste receptacle area. Make sure that receptacle is well covered, that they cannot find their way into it, even out there. They will leave your entire compound alone and go to the next site to forage for their daily bread, of course. Okay. But if you make your place the nest, the culture for them to grow in, they will come and really, really feast in your space. Okay, so this is very important. And then there are special wastes that are generated from our cleaning procedures. Wastes that are hazardous, for example, lead, mercury from light bulbs. When you strip off those, when you take off light bulbs and you change them, other batteries and oils and the rest, we don't allow them to mix with the regular waste. The same Loma authority that comes to take off your refuse, they have the people for special waste. So just tell them, I want to give off this kind of waste that was accumulated over time, and they will give you the right number to call for that area so that the special waste can be removed, okay? So don't assume that whenever you take out your oils from your generator, you can just dump them into the drainages. No, that's against the building code, and you cannot be practiced below the minimum standard, okay? Some hazardous materials can be treated and recovered, right? So there are companies that handle that. They will take out batteries, for example. They will go and retrieve some of the metals in it, or some of the alloys in it. Some will take out fluorescent tubes and go and retrieve the mercury in them. For the mercury is so insignificant, they will charge you for doing that job. It's quite expensive, but then you are doing it for the environment, okay? Now we'll talk about cleaning safety. During the process of cleaning, you are exposed to 7 critical hazards that you must be mindful of. The chemical hazards, the cleaning products, the pesticides, the asbestos, the glues, and all the other things that go with cleaning. Ergonomic hazards, your repetition of activities, your lifting, your awkward postures, like bending down to sweep. Your biological hazards, the molds, insects and pests, communicable diseases that you can be exposed to, and that you could create cross-contamination to expose others to. Safety hazards like slips, trips, and falls. You're trying to clean a high surface and you're using a ladder, for example, that's not suitable for that job. It's not the proper ladder for that job. Or you're working with tools or equipment that are faulty. Then physical hazards like noise, high noise from your equipment, blocking your ears, while working, temperature going too high or too cold in certain extremes, radiation and others. And then work organizational hazards, things that cause you stress. When the work is not structured, there's no pattern to it. You're getting quizzed for what you don't even understand. You tend to be stressed as well. And these are things that we need to be watchful of. So we teach our cleaners, we teach our team to be mindful of these hazards when dealing with cleaning operations, okay? So think about the chemicals and what they can do. Asthma, nervous system impact, brain impact, organs and kidney impact, eyes, a lot of things, hormonal imbalance and cancer. And then equipment safety. When equipment is faulty, don't work with it. Don't work with it. Don't say, let's manage it. It vibrates and throws off some things every now and then, but let's manage it. No. Use the right PPEs and ensure that you don't work on equipment that's faulty. You don't keep it connected after you're finished, and you don't leave it not locked out and tagged out when you're closing for the day. We've talked about the cleaning chemicals extensively. Once you know the chemical poison classification, you use that as a guide to prevent any hazard from becoming a risk and to mitigate any such risk when they rear their ugly heads. And then when you create a plan for responding or managing these hazards, you work with the hierarchy. You start with the elimination and substitution. For example, a chemical that is toxic, stop it completely, go for vinegar, go for peroxide solutions. And that's a way of elimination or substitution. The next one that is the next level of efficiency is the engineering controls that requires a physical change to the workplace. So putting handrails, putting protective guards, for example, they're all engineering controls. The next level is administrative controls that requires worker or employer to do something. Things like paperwork, like permit to work system, things like audits, process checklists, and then finally is your PPEs. So PPEs is not your first line of defense, it's your last line of defense. PPEs can save you only when everything else has failed. And if you depend only on PPE, that means you have failed at every level before the level of PPE, and that's what we want to avoid. Okay, we talked about engineering controls, having the proper equipment, redesign tools, local exhausts, examples of guards in your equipment just to ensure that hands cannot go through certain equipment or machinery. We talked about administrative, that has to do with paperwork, documentation, creation of evidence around processes that have been created, training that has been done, signing to ensure that we all are on the same page. And then we talk about your PPE. It's the control of last resort. Do not, I repeat, resort to PPEs as the first control. All of those PPEs are the control of last resort. If you have PPEs, you must have every other control. If you have only PPEs and you don't have any other control, then you are not controlling at all. So that's our lesson for today. I'll invite you all now to, after a 5-minute break, look through your notes and come up with your questions, okay? Time
Hello.
Yes.
My name is Adeniji Clement.
Okay.
My question borders on the PPE you just actually made mention about being the last thing we should consider. And I'm thinking as an hygiene worker, cleaning, that those PPE should be the first thing, because you must first of all protect yourself before engaging in any other activity there. So if you refuse to maybe protect yourself with the PPEs, thinking it should be the last point of contact when everything is exhausted, what happened during the course of your initial work?
Okay, the meaning of the PPE being the last point of protection of last resort or control of last resort is that if your PPE saved you, many things have failed to save you. So PPE must be there, but PPE should never save you, right? Yes, PPE should never save you. Everything else should have saved you first. Take, for example, you bring in a toxic chemical into your operation. The fume is very strong, right? And the only savior you have is the nose mask that you have to protect your nose from inhaling that chemical. Whereas administrative controls like safety data sheet that should be analyzed to prevent that chemical from coming into your space in the first place, which is dangerous or toxic, was missed, right? Engineering controls like following the rules of mixing such a chemical to reduce the impact of such explosion or effervescence in such chemicals has been missed, right? So the point I'm making here is PPE should be there. It is the last resort if everything else ahead fails, right? But if you now plan for PPE and you do not plan for things that should be planned for before PPE, then you have failed woefully. PPE should be the last. Does not mean you should do the job without PPEs.
Still not convinced.
When you get to PPE.
Because, like you actually mentioned, made mention of the nose mask. Is it what? Yeah. The nose mask you put on. Do we have what does that one fall under?
It's a PPE. It's a PPE, yes.
Okay. Now, if administrative procedures have failed, such as, okay, this has to be this, you have to mix this like this so that it will not have any effect on us. I do know that all those chemicals are not consumable. Anything chemical are things we should be very careful about. Now, since we know that chemicals are things we should be very careful about, and here you are telling me the PPE should be the last point of something. I think even why, because there are times you bring in new staff who do not know much about cleaning, even on a, let's say, hypo or jig, as the case may be. Now, you say, okay, let's finish this. And you are there with them trying to show them these things, and those chemicals might be coming out with smells. And if asthmatic patients are there, and people that can react differently to those things, I'm still emphasizing on why PPE, I think, should be the first rather.
No. You're contradicting yourself. If you bring new people into a team, right?
Okay.
You said you will train them. Is that correct?
Yes.
That is superior to PPE. Training them comes first before giving them the PPEs.
Okay.
That's administrative control.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying? If you just bring them in and give them PPEs to say, go and do the job, then you have forgone the most important things you should have done, superior controls before PPEs. You say, take PPE, go and work. They don't even know how to wear the PPEs. Wearing the PPE itself can be an administrative control, how to wear it. Selecting the type of PPE that will be appropriate for the job is administrative control. Signing off on those approvals for the type of PPEs to be procured is administrative control. If you miss out on all of those control and you just hand out PPE, you may be doing the wrong thing. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. All right. Thank you for your question. I believe we'll have had a good lesson. I'll say thank you and have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
It's quite
Thank you,
educative.
sir.
Thank you so much, Mr.